and all the rest, so on and so forth. And the energy is now undeniable, is how I would explain it. And the full moon energy that we just had, and the Aquarian full moon, so on and so forth, that started on the 19th of August. Some of the upgrades that have happened since then have left people feeling absolutely fatigued, wired. They've had the ringing in the ears, digestive issues, bowel problems, heart palpitations, so on and so forth, quitting their jobs. And the 3D matrix is really falling away quite quickly, amongst a lot of other things. And so, Linda, tell me how you have been and what insights you've been picking up on, and so on.
Well, when you look at today's the 21st, 22nd for some, the full moon, you have 72 hours where it really takes to integrate. And that would be today. And the influence and why this full moon is so predominantly affecting is it's a full moon in Aquarius. And to very limited knowledge and beliefs and stuff like that, we believe that only the moon is affecting us, not understanding that the placement of the moon also has a polar opposite of its own axis that also is influenced where the sun is positioned at. And so this full moon in Aquarius is on an axis with the sun in Leo right now. And we're also being influenced by Uranus and Taurus. Now, Uranus is the modern ruler of Aquarius and the age of Aquarius that we're moving into eventually, and on the linear realms. And in that, Aquarius and Leo both have a shadow aspect and a light aspect that influences us individually and as a collective. Now, because they're on an axis with each other, the common theme is the same for both Leo and Aquarius, only on different opposite aspects, if you will. But their main concern is the same thing. Now, the foundational energy. So Aquarius is all about the collective. That's what it represents. The collective of a societal collective, the mass collective consciousness of how we think, how we do, how we feel. And so when you look at Aquarius, Aquarius is also all about altruism, all about unity, all about unification. It's also representative of laws, rules, structure, and structures of a society, of a societal influence and what it governs, if you will. And Aquarius is the one that forms structure, but it also crumbles and rebuilds, if you will. Leo is all about individual, where Aquarius is about the collective. Leo is about personality and character, what you as the individual have formed, and there's a shadow and a light aspect to that. And your behaviors, your thought processes, your ingrained beliefs of the smaller societal influences that are in the big collective societal stories and narratives. Both are going to give you lessons, one on the collective, one on the individual. Now, the shadow side of Leo and the shadow side of Aquarius on the axis energies that are affecting overall is that shadow is where love has been cheapened to definitions based on sexuality, where the veil of illusion of victimization, blame, that's the shadow aspects of Leo, because that's the individual personal aspect, as well as the collective. That is tying you into the blaming of others, the victimization of it, the government's fault. This is the ingrained belief in conditioned patterns that we as a mass humanity have been under that influence for a long time of different cultural, traditional, governmental, family, all of that. And in that blame and that victimizational shadow aspect of the personality and character that we have developed through life experiences, that is not being accountable and responsible for our part in it as our individual life and into the collective. And the shadow aspect of Aquarius is the same thing. It is that need to be loved, that need to be accepted, to fit in. Both are lessons to put us as individuals and collectives in more higher connection to our essence, to the higher aspect of ourselves, to our divine consciousness, if you will. And so both that whole axis both represent a simultaneous rather than a duality of either or. And when you can understand this full moon was so influenced by both ends of the axis of Aquarius Leo, that is instilling great change for us. Then you throw in Saturn and the moon in that oppositional energy. You throw in Neptune and Taurus until 2026. All of that is pushing right now full force into our individual toroidal fields and energy fields, and also the mass collective, because that's what Aquarius really represents, is our collective. And the only way to evolve, whether it's as consciousness, whether it is as a humanity and societal influences, there's a generalized influence that in all aspects of us, that through our education, through our governments, through our churches, through whatever it is, that teaches us as a whole, this is how you have to be the same, you have to fit in. All of those have created a deep energetic imprint within the consciousness of all life, not just human life. It affects everything. And so these energies are pushing to the surface now. Anything and everything that has put either the brain or your reproductive organs as the power centers rather than the heart. And both of those, the root and the crown, both of those has put many layers over the light of the soul, if you will. Aquarius, it demands change. Leo supports that on the other end of the axis. And it both right now are bringing, whether you want to call them lessons, tests, initiations, consequences, whatever you want to call it, to the surface. That is bringing up a lot of deeply ingrained emotional and mental attachments to the shadow aspects of the collective and of the individual. Aquarius and Leo both represent uniqueness, and it pushes for out of the box uniqueness, individualized that can facilitate necessary change. Now, the collective doesn't like change. It's too uncomfortable. And Aquarius is going to force that. And that's what this energy of the full moon is really pushing out at. You got to remember, Aquarius is the internal path. The moon is the internal path. The sun, or the electron, if you will, the sun is the proton, the physical outer, the personality of your vessel and whatnot. And this is all about bringing it into harmony and balance. This is not a comfortable energy, especially with Uranus and Taurus until 2026. It is, and Uranus is all about the unexpected, the unknown, which is the ruler of Aquarius. And so you have a lot of merged energy going on, and that is going to facilitate great change. Now, you're also going to see that this is going to influence a revolutionary, because Aquarius is going to force the change. Uranus is going to amp up Aquarius's power of change, forcing more unification. And in that, Aquarius is going to assist in the tearing down, the breaking down of outdated structures that govern our societal humanity as a whole. And on top of it, you are bouncing through time circuits. We are being influenced so much by the solar flares. We're rapidly going into a culmination of that solar maximum. And so you have all of this happening. And between Uranus and Aquarius, you're going to see, for lack of a better way, an energetic vibrational frequency revolution, I guess is the best way to say it. It's not the word I really wanted to use, but that is going to cause earthquake in the financial market, if you will, earthquake in your educational systems, earthquake in all aspects of your government, because Aquarius shows us where we formed structures into a societal ingrained belief patterns, conditioned patterns, and belief systems. And Aquarius is going to assist us in breaking all of those down to rebuild it into a higher evolutionary path, if you will, as the collective whole. And Leo is assisting Aquarius with bringing us the lessons, the experiences that is going to show you as the individual where you are not in a space of uniqueness, of your own essence, God power within you. This is going to bring up so much collective belief wounding about gender roles in relationships, gender roles in society, where we have placed definition to gender, whether in all of these, I think there's like 175 different definitions of what type of sexual person you are. This is going to show us where we have cheapened as individual little societies, your family, your cultures, your churches, your religions, within the bigger collective societal structure of what is demanded from the collective as to what is truth, is right, is wrong, is good, is bad. And anything that governs anything of the collective, and because there is so much beliefs to financial and money and sex and love and and government and what is and what isn't in all of that polarity of duality. The definitions, how we identify, is going to now surface hardcore for us out here because it has removed that veil. And you have to remember, everything out here is delayed energy of what is the physical world is a mirror of what is taking place in the spiritual realms. It's as simple as that. And once it comes out here, that's a good thing, even though it's not comfortable. Once that energy starts hitting us, it's not comfortable because it triggers energy with that stagnant within the body, and so much of humanity has come into a very stagnant place in their thinking of the sameness of, this is how we've always done it, this is how our family tradition, this is what our culture demands, again, to labels with gender and roles as men and women in society and relationships as parents. And all of these definitions are going to start really be challenged now. That's really going to come to the surface so we can see, become aware, to make different choices. So this is giving us the power to tear apart, to unlearn, to become okay with not knowing and the unknown. That's the only part as a whole societal humanity that it has been taught that it's to fear change and to let somebody else handle that change, if you will. Again, accountability and responsibility and action and stuff like that. And so in every aspect, Alex, these energies are not comfortable. If you know, for the last week, I've had more people message me and say, what is going on? I'm having crazy dreams. I am so sick. And again, you have to remember, the vessels are conduits. They're a template that's being cleared of information that no longer needs to be in there. And that's what the nausea is about. That's what the rashes on your skins are about. This is why the digestive is so pronounced right now. Digestive issues, heaviness in the chest, heart palpitations, all of that is because there's a whole lot of stagnancy of energy within the body, mental, emotional, spiritual, etheric. And if you're nauseous, if you have diarrhea, if you know you can't eat, you have headaches, this is a good thing because it's showing you where you have stuck energy that needs moved out of your vessel. And it doesn't feel good. That's why so many go through it, some don't. And these energies are forcing this information up and out, up to the surface that we can acknowledge it. You know, instead of being nauseous all day, eat something and puke, you know, or whatever you want to do, but move the energy that it needs moved out of the body. And that's where this is not comfortable at all. But it'll bring people to, when you look at your reproductive organs, there's three major power centers. Your reproductive organs, your heart, and your brain. And as individuals, we're taught to bounce between the reproductive organs and the brain and guard the heart. You know, you have to protect it instead of protecting these two, you know, and keeping it all in alignment. And so when you look at our society beliefs anywhere in the world, culturals, no matter what aspect you look at it at, love has been equated to a whole lot of limited definitions. And what love is defined between people and family structures and those roles. You're a teenager, you start, when you hit puberty, you start to establish your own emotional body. And you look at everything that you go through as teenagers, as alone, or even going to school and your peers and all of that. Sexuality has been such a taboo subject, and it has been attached to with a lot of shame, a lot of this is how I get love. This is how I better myself. Have fun. There's a lot of cultures out there that you hit 25 years old. Why aren't you married yet? So there's a lot of collective beliefs out there, all attached to that has been given definition to what love is. And because love has no definition, our divine consciousness, our soul has no definitions, that is really going to be challenged right now. Is how you define your personality and character still based on wounding and stuff of your life experiences and the beliefs that you have towards those life experiences? Or is it really present with you right now, focused on who you are right now and expanding and evolving that? Is your personality and character truly based on a connection to source, to God, and to the light of God versus within here, versus having awareness and knowledge? Yeah, I understand. There is a difference between the embodiment and living it as source living through your vessel versus you, the individual, still holding the lower limitations of having it, but not necessarily allowing it to live through you. And that's really going to push us to redefine what governs us as a societal humanity, as a collective, as micro and macro, and really push us to face the fear of the unknown that is so ingrained in the subconscious mind. And in that, it is going to help the individual, if they choose to, along with the collective shifting, to truly give opportunity to connect to their higher essence and to make the necessary changes to their character and their personality and their use of will, and to a more heart-centered space. And so this energy flipped it to, now it's going to show the individuals the universe's perspective, if you will. And the universe's perspective now is going to Aquarius and Leo is now going to show each of us as individuals where we are individuals in a stagnated conditioning pattern of ingrained beliefs of a societal governing body, and which keeps us stagnant. And this is going to show you where you're individualized and yet not individualized in the unique essence of that which you are, if that makes sense, Alex. And that's tough for us. That's tough for the limited mind. This is the norm. This is how it's always been. This is the only thing I know. You know, this is going to force heart communication versus what we think is heart communication. And I know you've been feeling these energies. Everybody's feeling them. I've been feeling.
The other thing that's coming through at this moment in time is lung and throat codes. Yeah, people with I've been noticing it, especially with the throat. People with blocked throats are suddenly having issues much worse than before. And also the big email I'm getting at the moment, just like you, from people all over the world, is Alexander, I can't breathe. I'm struggling to breathe. And they all want me to give them an instant answer and a quick fix and a quick heal. And I always say the same thing. I said, like any doctor, I would have to sit down with you, go through the layers of your energy. I can't prescribe a pill or a cream because everyone's energy is unique and different.
Deep breathing.
Yeah, and a lot of my clients, not all of them, but a lot of them are in a slightly panicked state, and they think that a salve will heal all. But of course, everyone's uniqueness is.
You got to remember, the mind is what creates the panic. The mind is what generates the emotions. The mind, again, consciousness is mental. It's a mentality, and change is never comfortable, and people cannot understand everything that is going on, especially when it's invisible and its energy and its frequency and vibration. And so what occurs and why people can't breathe is energy enters in, light information comes in, and the body is conditioned into a freeze, fight, or flight mechanism that kicks in when any information comes in to its conditioned programming that is different. And that automatically signals in the neural system, alert, alert, something's not right. This is different. This doesn't feel good. What is this? I'm feeling something. I don't know what it is, which is automatically going to start restricting airflow. This is why people can't breathe or having trouble breathing, or because of anxiety, of panic, of this is different information. What's going on? Because you got to remember, we're taught that consciousness is in the body, and it's exactly inverted from that. Source is in the center of the circle, not us. We are the circle, and the whole energy field is our consciousness. Our bodies are in a sphere of light consciousness, and to the human individual, no, our brain is consciousness. Our mentality, how we think is, and it's not. Two very different things. This is consciousness. Your heart connects you to your divine consciousness. And your brain, your mind has been pre-programmed. And so it's a very beautiful dance. It's just not comfortable because this information in the cellular molecular structure, especially here, goes against this, what governs the societal norm of the collective. And it's not comfortable because it's just not comfortable. There is too much light information that is bombarding the light sphere of Earth in the individual light toroidal fields that is compressing, if you will, squeezing out of the cellular, molecular, and neural system that just can't maintain with the higher broadband frequency. and it is going to make people spiral. I've talked about this a lot. And you haven't, again, I'm going to go back to Uranus and Taurus through 2026. That is the modern ruler coming in and saying, it's time to change, children. You need to leave the nest now. And it's going to push us into where the mind can no longer deny that it needs to change. That no longer as individuals or even us as countries, our governments, you got elections going on all over the world, you got wars going on all over the world, you have all of these things going all over the world, all showing the facilitation that there is no normal anymore, that change is inevitable. And so you're really going to find, because Uranus is all about truth and awakening. Uranus is going to force you into facing information that is going to be very uncomfortable for societal conditioning. And it's going to force us all on an individual aspect to change. That the way we think, the way we behave, what we do, that has created so much separation, that has created misinterpretation, or rather individual my truth, your truth interpretation of structure, of form, of laws, of rules. The best example I can give of that is like my underglow on my car. It doesn't matter where in the state of Texas it is, it's a very big state. There's the law that governs underglow on your vehicles. And it doesn't matter if it is a state trooper, a sheriff, police. It doesn't matter what branch of government. I've been pulled over by them all, and they all have a different interpretation and definition of what that law means. And for me, I carry the law printed out in my vehicle, because they all have a generalization. Okay, we have an underglow law, but none of them actually know exactly what the law states. So they all interpret it their own way through their own personality, if you will. And so me, I have to show them the law and where they really don't know their law. And, it can go, there's been some that have been assholes about it. And then there's been others that are like, we just have a conversation like this. But that is the initiative change that we as individuals are bringing. Aquarius and Leo are going to force uniqueness, force us to break away from the stagnancy of what has been normal and what governs us as a world society, as our individual countries. You're in Europe, I am in America. Everything is going to be uncomfortable going forward. It's going to get more uncomfortable because there's too many of us now that have come to some sort of self-realization, truly, of connecting to the higher essence of ourselves that is facilitating and demanding change. And unfortunately, it takes the rebellious, it takes those that are willing to step out of the norm, that doesn't need to be accepted by society and its rules and its limitations. It is going to change from the persecution of those of us that are different, which has been around for hundreds of years. and in the modern world even more so, to embracing uniqueness a lot more. And so we have flipped it, if you will. And anything that does not truly allow us as a world, as society, as a whole society and individual societies, it's going to break us out of it. And by breaking us out of it, it is at the same simultaneous time helping us rebuild. And as we get closer and closer to this solar maximum, again, bringing in a lot more light into these realms, that is really going to make the individual bodies go through an awful lot to align to that higher light information. And so from your shoulders to your thighs, that whole area, your digestive system, your reproductive organs, gender doesn't matter, because your soul has experienced both sides of that polarity. All of that stuff holds a lot of emotional attachments. Your liver, your pancreas, your appendix, your gallbladder, your spleen, all your intestines, all of those hold a lot of filters that help filter information through your body. Your liver holds a lot of anger, your pancreas, a lot of abandonment. Your spleen is an etheric gateway. Your kidneys filters a lot of your emotions and stuff. And so all of this has really helped the bodies filter information. And so all of the energy that's coming and affecting all of these organs is really just realigning itself and getting rid of unnecessary information as we fully, because the veil has been removed. And those who choose to align with the higher frequencies, the imagery out here of what is perceived, along with that mental thought process, is shifting so rapidly that people can't keep up. It's very discombobulating. It is very confusing. We're going through time circuits every 11 days. We just came out of a trinity of massive power circuits. And you're really going to see, when we start the celestial new year in November, a lot of change. What's being unveiled and revealed and rebelled against right now, and all of these opinions that have dictated acceptance and fitting in and all of this. We don't need to fit in and be accepted anymore. And if you can withstand the fire, you're going to come out into a lot brighter space, but then you're going to have the side of the collective that is going to keep blaming and spiraling and creating chaos and taking narratives and running with them clear into creating massive delusional rabbit holes. And it's always going to be about people, things, places out here. So you're going to have that clash of the personality and the characters as it's being revealed, that it is truly, again, the mirror has been turned onto the focus of the individuals and saying, now you've played the blame game and victim game too long. The universe is going to make it crystal clear now. Every individual's part in creating the power and control system of the patriarchal era. It can no longer be blamed on something outside. The universe is saying, no, now you're going to see you're part of this collective societal problem that you guys complain about. And you're going to facilitate the necessary change for evolution. Before we're in a mirror, and we're having to recognize the mirror that's not so blatant because we've been taught to only see straight, not to turn the mirror back on. And now Aquarius has flipped it for us. They have taken the Aquarius Leo axis and we have spun it to where all of this energy is stirring up in order to bring the mass collective to match the higher fifth dimensional grid system that is now fully anchored and engaged in place. And that goes for the whole. That, we're past the 100 monkeyth syndrome. It has now anchored it. It has sealed it. And anything that does not match that is coming up. And this is causing great confusion, instant, abrupt, brutal awakening. And when you have bodies that are not prepared for it energetically and vibrationally, it is tough. It is very tough. I know of 4 people in the last 2 weeks, whether it be their children, whether it be their spouse, whether it be their friend, that it has gone through an abrupt awakening. And when you have all of that dimensional information come crashing into your psyche, it is troublesome. It is very discombobulating. It is very confusing because all of your beliefs get challenged instantly. And so you're really going to see that occurring. A lot of health issues coming up. One thing about the body is, whether you call it cancer, diabetes, heart problems, Crohn's disease, eczema, whatever the people want to refer to it as, the body, when energy is suppressed too long in the body and energy becomes stagnant, it will keep coagulating. It will find a way to release it. Your skin's the biggest organ in your body. Many people right now are experiencing itchiness, rashes, hives is a good one. Again, all of the suppressed energy, your body has to find a way, because you keep suppressing that emotional energy as individuals. Your body has to find a way to release the energy. And that's where your tumors and your stuff like that comes up. And so another beautiful aspect of this Aquarius moon is it is going to show people again how they have done this they have created these things by suppressing their emotions, by taking in information and creating beliefs based on partial information, based on gossip, based on assumption, jump to conclusions, judgment, all of that, which determines how we value life, value ourselves, value our world. All of that carelessness of thought is really going to make things uncomfortable as definitions and really present themselves of how we as humans, as societies, as cultures, as countries have really distorted that which was put in place again, Aquarius forms structure and how we as individuals have influenced in whatever way limits and more limits and more limits to that which was created to govern us for all versus personalities of government officials and congressmen and this, that, and the other, kings, queens, prime ministers, how they come in with their own personality and beliefs and form laws and restrictions and rules. Again, all of those things that take away from God's form of structure and limited us in any way into a box, whether that's our education, our peers, our family members, our associates, whatever it is, our community, our cities, our towns, our governments, our countries. And so the world is being forced right now with the force, the light of God, to say it cannot go on anymore like this. And it is time to really see the participation, take away the mask of blame and I'm a victim and blah, 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 and see your participation of how you have created your life. It has not been about anybody else. How us as individuals have created our societies to be the way they are, and how we have taken it and limited by selfish definitions of skin color, of religions, of cultures, all based on opinions and personality and character. And that's what Leo is really going to assist Aquarius with, the individual and the collective. It's a miraculous, magical time for us. It is not a comfortable and golden butterfly and roses imagery out here, and it's not going to be. But again, the fire has to come in and be ignited by the air in order to purify, and unfortunately there is, as societal norms, and people are going to go kicking and screaming because they don't want to change. They're comfortable in how things are. They're comfortable in victimization. They're comfortable in not being accountable and responsible for what their minds are generating and what their wounding is blocking their heart from. The most beautiful thing about it is this full moon anchored in heart, connection to the innate divine self, the divine consciousness. It fully anchored it in there. There's no way away from that. And there's no running or hiding or not being affected in any way, shape, or form. There is too much light now. And it's just a matter of letting this flow and unfold without getting caught up in the character and the personality of stories. Because it's going to come rapid, and parts of it is going to come rapid, and then it's going to feel stagnant, like it's taken forever to move through this energy. You got to remember, Aquarius formed the structure in the beginning of this universal creation, and now Aquarius is assisting with tearing it down so it can be rebuilt and be built for when we actually enter the age of Aquarius, if that makes sense. And so it's a very beautiful process when it's not personal. You can step back and not have it personal and see it from that, and then let the information flow in the personal and shift it. So it's a very beautiful period of time, but I can tell you this, hundreds of people that I know that message me and email me, oh, I'm so nauseous, Linda. Oh my God, the nightmares, Linda. Oh my God, I'm seeing things. Did you see that, Linda? You know,
Yeah, by the way, I'm getting exactly the same emails, but the biggest one I'm getting right now is I can't breathe.
and that's why you can't breathe, because the mind, the brain is being challenged with a whole lot of light information. And you have to remember, you are only ever as expanded as the limits of your mind. And there's a lot of I know so many people that are so convinced that, oh no, I don't really have no beliefs or I this, and then they turn around and say, well, I have a hernia. I said, I thought you didn't have no beliefs. You've been saying you've had a hernia for 10 years. You're claiming ownership, which means that's your limit. Or, oh, money ain't important to me. Okay, so why do you still have a definition of money? You have a polarity, because here knows currents of energy. It doesn't look to a limitation of a dollar, to a piece of paper with ink on it. So here, the fifth dimension, and this is where a lot of people don't get it. The fifth dimension has no mind, no thought. The fifth dimensional frequency is one of energetic interpretation of light information, which is energy, vibration, and frequency. And that can only be interpreted by here. When you're really connected to source here, you don't need your mind to interpret. And so that's really what's really gonna start. Again, the universe is gonna start showing people where they're truly in their mind convinced that they're here, that they're connected to their innate. And that is gonna bring up a lot of ugliness. It's gonna bring up a lot of unworthiness. It's gonna bring up a lot of wounding of attachments to their personality, to their character, to the boundaries and the limits that they have placed in their mind because of their culture and everything. So this is tough. It's going to get tougher. But at the same time, it gets more peaceful and harmonious in here. And this loses its control.
Do you know what I have found really on a slightly lighted-hearted note, or a light note? What has been really fun to watch is the time circuit upgrades as we get closer and closer to galactic time, and the effect that that is having on awakened, unawakened, as people are going through these massive time circuits, and really coming out of linearity. And I'll give you an example just today. Um, I had to call a plumber to come out today because we're getting a shower fitted. And when I called the lady, I said, "Yeah, the guy's late. We're expecting someone about an hour ago. Are they coming?" And she goes, "Oh yeah. What day is it? What day? I don't know what day it is anymore." And I'm seeing the more we're going through these time circuit upgrades, this happens more and more. People don't know what time it is, what day it is, and the now is coming so fast that once it's passed, the past seems like an eternity away.
Yes. And people are going to be forced more into the now, out of that time and space limitation. And with that, you're going to see a lot of this that has been attached to as far as extraterrestrials and how they've enslaved us. And all of those narratives are going to prove distorted. And all of these narratives about how the universe was created and human bodies created and it's about the Anunnaki and this and that. You're gonna see a lot of this information now be proven to be false. And some of these people out here that have attached whole lot of information proving it. A lot's going to come out how a lot of these sacred sites, the pyramids, all over the world, this and that, how they have been altered through their so-called archaeological discoveries. You could really see that. I have the gift of being able to read hieroglyphics. And when I was in Egypt and we're walking through the sarcophagus, I stopped and was reading the hieroglyphics on the walls, and we were looking at the tombs, and all the tombs they have opened and blah blah blah, and you can see where they have altered it. You can see where some of the hieroglyphics have been altered, and only if you're really looking at it in person would you ever be able to tell that it has been altered. And it was really sad. I actually looked at the tour guide and I said, this is not right. I said, this has been altered here. This is not uncovered and excavated how it was. And so much of the interpretation over there is back only to the information of the fourth dynasty. None of them, whether it was in Giza, whether it was in Luxor or Aswana, none of them could give me any information before the fourth dynasty or the very late third dynasty. When I asked them about the pre-dynastic eras, none of them had any information. When I asked them about the first and second dynasties, none of them had that information. And so what they're promoting is information that's limited only back to the fourth dynasty, which again omits a whole lot of information of our history. And so again, this is forcing all of that up. There's a lot of information bombarding, and the more information that gets uncovered and released and unveiled, it's not that it's been deliberately kept hidden or secret. It's that, again, in the lower realms of vibration and frequency and the filters and the limits and boundaries that each adopt and are raised by will limit what information comes in. The information has always been out here, but again, humans take everything literal and interpret it through their assumption and jump to conclusions and scientific theories. And so there's a lot that is in the quantum field, and that has to be purified. That has to be sorted, and that's where we as individuals come in. And those of us that are connected, that have awakened ourselves and embody the higher frequencies, this is what we do. We, even if they all think we're crazy, we are for the mass collective, purifying and neutralizing a lot of distorted light information at energy, frequency, and vibrational wise. And that work is paying off. So as much as it is now being forced into the surface imagery and physicality of experience, at the same time, simultaneous, it's also showing where so many star seeds and light workers, whatever they want to label themselves as, where that work has actually made a difference, and where they're tired and they want this over, and this is too much. And they've been hearing for years that it's shifting, but they don't see the truth or the evidence of it, the physical evidence of it. You know, what has seemed to drag out now is really going to rapidly start culminating out here. And there's going to be a lot of land changes. It's going to force, in all aspects, heightened earthquakes as nature and volcanic eruptions and tsunamis and hurricanes, as nature comes full force to balance herself. And nature always will balance herself, or your soul, your spirit will always bring balance back to itself. The human just thinks it actually is participating when it's not. It just mimics out here that it's important and actually making its own choices. Oh, no, God's always been in control, and God will remain in control. Your innate, your soul, whatever you need to call it, will always be in control, whether you veil yourself from that or not. And this is going to, again, humans are about to get the universe's perspective. And it is going to show each and all truly that they never have had control, that they have just created a whole lot of distortion because they walled up their heart, but it still was in control, even if they misinterpreted it. And so, and it's necessary, Alex. It is absolutely necessary, because the imagery of the lower vibration of the individual human, of how it perceives, has to change to match the fifth dimensional frequency vibration. That imagery has to change. And that imagery is heart-centered. It does not perceive evil and good in an either or. It does not perceive that duality. It understands that everything is simultaneous. And when you see the opposite aspects, the different aspects of the very same theme of the core of us, that simultaneous shows you that it doesn't exist. And you go right back to the nothingness, the allness of nothingness of divine consciousness. And so that's, as we move into the beginning of next year, you're really going to start seeing that play out on the individual life of their own choices, how they have used their power, and how the results of how they deal with things that are coming to the surface. Now, you're really going to start seeing that play out January, February, March, as we go into mid-July, into June, mid-July of next year. I've been saying that for a few years now, that it's really going to culminate. Again, Uranus is demanding that change. Uranus is the modern ruler of Aquarius. And so this full moon really was the game changer. It illuminated the whole axis rather than one at a time. And so the sun and the moon literally merged itself on that axis line of that full light. And that's the beautiful thing about this full moon. But you also have influence by Jupiter and Saturn, your crown and your root. So again, that axis of Aquarius Leo has illuminated this whole column of energy centers, if you will, to bring in a beam of light for those who can truly allow the full connection of all of their energy centers, or what the modern world has defined as chakras. And that's a very beautiful thing. That has never occurred before on the physical realms, only usually after we die. So evolution is in full force right now. And fear always accompanies change and evolution. And anxiety and panic. And many people, when they are forced to change, where they are forced into an unknown, can't breathe, will start hyperventilating. And their mind will run with it. I can't breathe. Oh my God, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. And even me, when it comes in, it's like, I'm struggling breathing here. And then I sit there immediately and I start deep breathing, because your consciousness is in control, not your mind. And your consciousness is here, but your mind is going to sit there and say, I can't breathe. And when you step back of it being, I can't, you can gain control over your body again once you drop from here back to here, because this is going to generate the I can't breathe. I don't feel good. Oh, I'm too sick. Oh, and it's okay that you have that acknowledgement. Just make sure you acknowledge it and then step out of it and take back control over your system. And that's really what needs to be done right now. So yes, to their mind that thinks it's dying, because your mind controls your body. To the mind that thinks it is dying because it's being forced to expand out of its boundaries and its limits, its place there, or that the individual human is placed there, that's why it can't breathe. It's panicking. You want me to change? You want me to believe something different? No, 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 I can't. It's too uncomfortable, and it's going to generate panic. And that panic is going to tell your lungs, nope, freeze. It's going to tell your blood, nope, stop. It's going to tell your brain, spiral. You know, it in your brain is like, oh, I have no oxygen. I can't work. What's wrong? And so, again, you have to allow your mind to open. And everything is going to force each to really show just how close-minded society has become as individuals, and in every little aspect of the collective societal.
I'm gonna give an example of this. I have clients who say, you know, I want to see my star family. I want to talk to my star family. And I go, okay, great. Let's start teaching you how to get in there. And then it turns out they've actually got very strong connections to Cygnus, the Swan constellation, the Anunnaki, and then they've got very strong connections to Draco. And when we get in there, I'm starting to pick up on this, but when they get in there, and I'm already in there with them, because again, what you were talking about, these very strong beliefs, they shut themselves down. And they know, they can feel it somewhere in there. They have this connection to Cygnus, or they have this connection to Draco, or whatever it is.
They've labeled it, picked up information, and
Exactly.
adopted its beliefs that it's evil, that it's bad, that's dark entities are again, they've shut themselves down.
Exactly. And I keep saying, come back into neutrality, drop good and bad, light and dark, and all the dualistic stuff in the illusion down in 3 and 4. Come into your heart space because you'll realize when you connect to that Cygnus energy and that Anunnaki family that you have, whether you like it or not, just like I am a white Caucasian male with slick back hair, I can't change that. Once you connect to that, you're going to start coming all these abilities and gifts and everything coming in. But again, it's like what you were saying. Like, and the other classic one is, yes, there have been some interesting, influences with what people call reptilians, but it's like saying all Chinese people are bad. They're not. It's a sweeping generalization. And sometimes what will happen is I will see their reptilian guide come in before they do. And they will shut themselves down. It's going back to exactly what you're saying, all these beliefs, what I heard in a Facebook group, I read, da 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 da, all the rest of it, and then create.
Because information sounds credible, or you resonate with two words of it, so you adopt the whole sentence. But that's the problem right there. Information sounds credible. I can resonate. Well, okay, what part of you resonates?
Well,
Your thought process resonates to information.
I know we've discussed this before, and I've tried to put up posts about this, and it's the post that least resonates the most, the least resonates
But
the most.
it's more accurate because it has created a ripple of, oh God, you're
Mm.
wrong. So there's a lot of higher truth in what you're saying
But
because it's rejected too much.
100%. And often I will say to someone, you don't need to resonate or not resonate. You don't need to have a forced egoic emotional reaction either way, because
It's
then,
just information.
yeah. And it is the hardest thing for light workers to come to terms with at this moment in time because they have to have a forced emotional reaction. Trump,
Because they've
Biden,
put a limit
white,
to
dark.
because they've adopted an idea of and have given a limited definition to standing in their power and standing in their truth. And as long as it's their version of truth, it's not the light of God.
I'll
It's not the
tell,
light of source.
and I'll say another thing. When I first, I do a lot of client sessions and so on and so forth. This used to stop me from actually working in people's energies until I learned this to not resonate or resonate with someone's energy or what I was seeing, because firstly, it's none of my business. But secondly, I don't need to have those filters anymore.
Well, you don't need that duality because it's they're limiting it by personal judgment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Which is based on vibration of what they hold within. And just because they think they're at a high vibration doesn't mean that the information in their cellular molecular structure is at the vibration that they think they are at. And I was having a conversation with somebody a few days ago, and they're very convinced that they are awake. And yet I hadn't seen them in 5, 6 years. And they're still in the exact same space, exact same thought process, living the exact same life that they had in everything exactly the same. And in 5 years, they should have shifted in one way or another. Any of us, unless we're trapped in that stagnation, there usually is a lot of change within your own individual life. And you can really see how easy it is to limit yourself, not really, because you get so comfortable in familiar and just keep living that. because you have the awareness, but it truly hasn't been embodied, and it has to be embodied, and your actions from that, and your choice is made from that. That's what embody means. It doesn't mean having it and then blasting everything out here, because you don't, it doesn't fit into the parameters of where you have stagnated and limited it yourself. Because truly, when you, the more we expand our consciousness, the less there is of you, the individual, the little I. Your life becomes, this is the body, and your life becomes divine consciousness, using the body as a tool of expression. But that's very hard for people to release the personality and character that they have lived their whole life and built, you know. And I just know that if people really truly don't look at themselves and have a self-discipline of self-introspection, and really see where they put the burden of their choices in thinking onto other people, their partners, their friends, their colleagues, this, oh, it doesn't matter, whatever you want, and really see that aspect of themselves, they will always play victim. They will always be in a mentality of blame, of something or someone has done something to me, rather than the higher consciousness that the soul is creating experiences to help you come back to the true nature of your essence, you know. And that's not comfortable. There's a lot of information, a lot of beliefs that has been distorted through literacy. And nature's about to come in and spank the world with with a whole lot of truth that's going to make them uncomfortable. And that truth is really going to challenge all aspects of all realms, of all dimensions, of all narratives, whether you call it spiritualists, whether you call it star seeds and light workers, whether you call it a scientific theory, whether you call it quantum physics, whatever definition you give it, it is going to, nature is, the universe is going to come in and it's going to show, no, this is where you have taken it literal, this is where you have distorted it, not only as individuals and the smaller collectives of ancestry and blah blah blah, but also your cultures, your religions, your government officials, your financial, your education, all of it, for the whole world. There is a lot of cultures that, you know, that suppress women or suppress this, or, and all of that is that's what I mean by it's all going to come in and being shown on how those ingrained and taught conditioning and belief systems has created parameters and limits that have influenced why people choose and have made choices that they have. And that's a beautiful thing. We need change.
But also,
I mean, everybody likes to bitch about how bad and evil the world is, but no one wants to take accountability that their belief system of hate and racism and prejudice and gossip and all of that they have also chosen to engage and participate in. And they are just as guilty of all these that they accuse in the governments and blah 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 blah. And
And
that's the biggest push we're going to have
it
to
is.
shift all of this.
And all of
Yeah.
that on some level has allowed or conditioned the light worker to want to adopt as opposed to experience.
It's easier to adopt information and have somebody else do the inner work for you than you do it for yourself. And that's what you see in a lot of the collective star seeds and light workers and spiritual communities, especially on social media. They like to argue about information, who's right, who's wrong, who's light, who's dark, which shows their own limitation of duality. Because truly there isn't that opposition. And as long as there's an either or, then they are not self-realized. They have attached to and adopted other outside information. Because when you experience it for yourself, just like you when we were in Glastonbury, and you were looking at the star, and I said, okay, just tune into it. I can sit there and I can tell you. And it's like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yep, I get it. Yep, yeah. And then you tuned in. It's like, no, just tune into it, Alex. Relax your mind and just tune into it. And you just got a whole whoosh of information from Arcturus. And it was like that overnight for you. It just kept coming hardcore for 4 or 5 hours for you. And until you experienced it and you had that self-realization from that experience, you never really understood what I was saying. Oh, you got it. You understood the information. Yes, it was in alignment with what you had already connected to and your Arcturian guides had shown you, but until you had the full experience and realization, you really didn't understand what I was saying.
Well,
And I think that's the things you had said to me. It's like, oh, I thought I got it, Linda, but now I really get it.
but that all of that is true. But the other profound thing was that is also the moment that I realized I didn't need the Arcturians anymore as well.
Because you took in all of what the human is taught is a star system outside of time and space. It is just light information of a certain vibrational dimensional frequency. So in that space, there is no star system. What you call Arcturus is a living library record. What you call Andromedans or the praying mantis or the insectoids or whatever aspect is just a record of light, a living record of light information, not honey, I shrunk the kids down to it being a planet or a galaxy or a star.
And it was after that moment that the Andromedans, the Mantis, and the Anunnaki, and all of them all came eventually flooding in after that moment, all in one go.
Well, that's just like the one time you came into when you said, "Can I come into your energy field, my consciousness field?" And you started laughing. You're like, "Oh my God,
Oh yeah, well,
I have
let me tell this story. So for
okay."
anyone interested, I think you wanted me to do some work on your route or something.
No, you wanted to see the dragon.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
You wanted to see my dragon aspect.
yes. So okay. So I wanted to see what your one of your galactic etheric bodies looked like. So I came into your energy, but yeah, this is what is so funny is as I was coming into your energy, all the galaxies, all the Akashic stuff was flying at me like this, and it was the funniest thing, honestly, because it all came at once. It's like throwing every word of the Bible at you at once. Well, I mean, the Bible is not a very good, but it is.
The Bible shows both polarities. People just don't know how to interpret it without putting limits to it and literalcy.
Hmm.
If you step it out of being something religious, you can really see the information in it, in any religious text, anything. But
But
yeah, it was a lot of information because I have evolved past it, the planetary guardians and those limits that those that are on awareness, remembering, awakening journey. That's the stair steps, and eventually you climb the stair steps of consciousness, and you go past the boundaries. Like you said, you no longer needed the Arcturians guidance to there because you got it all once and you ascended past it. You evolved past that veil and was able to move on now to the Andromedans or the Antarians and different ones. And so when you get to that point, which you've seen in my field, it was just information of the entire Akashic Living Library. It wasn't limited to a galaxy in outer space, in space-time continuum, which is awesome when people can really understand that all you're doing is walking through the Akashic Living Library, and at any moment you can choose to get out of the book and start writing a new book of life. But we're not going back to how it was in Atlantis. We're not going back to how it was in Lemuria. But there's a lot of people that have awareness, regardless of what they call themselves,
well,
that are enthralled with their past lives, that want to return to being the characters, to return to Atlantis, to return to Lemuria. Why do we want to go back in evolution
exactly.
and de-evolutionize ourselves? It's for us to create a new story.
But also, people forget that Atlantis was a fifth dimensional civilization living on an unascended planet, whereas now we're living on an ascended planet, going back into a fifth dimensional reality. It's exactly we wouldn't want to go back to that because actually what we've got coming
We've
is
evolved
way
past it.
yeah, exactly.
And yet everything is so compared in the spiritual communities, so compared. People want to know about their past lives. They want to know about this. They want to know about that. Everything which takes their brain, their from the now, from the present, and creating a brand new future. Everything is being compared to the past. They want to know about the past. If they spent as much energy focused on intentional energy of what they want to build and see in the world, this shift would have taken place a lot quicker. But too many worship and idolize the past of Atlantis and Lemuria. And we have evolved. We're in a post-Atlantean Greek epoch. Why do we want to go back and build it the same way? We've already experienced it. We're on a two-dimensional existential plane with a 3D avatar body in a fourth dimensional consciousness. And again, how people associated, well, Gaia, nature, Earth is at 3D. No, that is the body. The consciousness has been at the fourth dimension and is shifting into a fifth dimension and higher. However, again, you have to understand nature has never fell. Nature is not what has been in the lower vibrational frequencies. The 3D body that perceives in third dimensional perception of interpretation of fourth dimensional light information. That is what has been interpreted as it being Gaia. No, Gaia is a life force energy that is within nature, the essence of our spirit in and of itself. And again, misinterpretation of limited definition. It is the 3D human avatar body which perceives land form as nature slash Gaia when she is life in and of itself, a life force power energy. It is only the human avatar third dimensional bodies that distort a higher consciousness, whether you call it fourth dimension or higher. That is the misinterpretation of the inverted matrix. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. What Gaia being a primordial being, that means life force or life, throughout interpretation of experience has fell into Honey, I Shrunk the Kids and has been made into a planet, false ideation of form, and it's a life force. It is not form. These bodies are third dimensional forms, and that is the structure of imprisonment, if you will, because you're 3D, again, third dimensional, which means it's your physical, mental, and emotional body. It is not inclusive of the spiritual and etheric bodies. That's why you have a 4D consciousness. That is the veil of good and evil. And when you evolve through that, you pull in the other two subtle bodies, which are your spiritual and your illuminated body, your etheric body, which illuminates the 3D avatar. And that creates a rainbow bridge when you bring the physical, the mental, and the emotional and merge it with what is known in the spiritual communities as the higher self. And with that, you create the rainbow bridge of all 5 subtle bodies together, which creates the shift in consciousness here that then morphs, transforms, whatever you need to call it for yourself, the 3D avatar body into unification with your higher consciousness that is merged now with the first through fourth dimensional consciousness that is being experienced through the 3D avatar body. That's where people get confused. Nah, Gaia is not 3D. The human avatar body of perception is, until it aligns the neural and cellular molecular structure to the higher frequency vibrational information, because your brain works on frequency. Your brain waves that is generated from the vibrational currents of the heart-brain cohesiveness, coherence. So the 3D don't change. The existential disc plane don't change. Consciousness and perception change because you change the brainwave frequency that your brain operates from. Your biofrequency, your right frequencies, your solfeggios, your binaural beats, all of those out on YouTube that you can find show that frequency. It's just information.
We are
And
going
when
to
you change the 3D avatar body, that information that's held within the cellular molecular structure, and you bring more light in there, your body expands to its full light's informational field, because you have taken your fractal out of the body and returned it back to its full field of information and let the information flow through the avatar body. And as it illuminates it and you release old stagnant information of the past that you no longer need, whether you call that past yesterday or whether you call it 13.5 billion years ago when this universe was created, the smoke screen 4.6 billion years ago when it was created, the smoke screen veil was created. The universe is much older than that. So when you pull in your spiritual and etheric body, it illuminates information that you can neutralize and release, and eventually your cellular molecular structure is going to be illuminated with higher light frequency information. That's why I said what I said about Gaia. No, she's a life force energy. She's not the one who needs to shift from 3D. It is strictly only the avatar that has been programmed and conditioned from the time that life force energy entered into it.
But Gaia ascended in 2012, didn't
Yeah.
she?
That life force energy that was fractuated into walking through the soul's journey of the 12 constellations of lessons. Yes, it came to a completion in 2012. And that aspect of the soul consciousness then went back to its full self. No different than what you guys call the lower self and the higher self. There's always a part that stays in its wholeness. And that's why this story, the epoch, is coming to a new zero point. Because the experience of the fifth dimension frequencies and higher, there is no separation. There's no longer the younger aspect or the fallen aspect of Gaia, our life force consciousness, to be separated and experienced. We have experienced everything that we can as far as that duality.
There are. They're gone.
I was just going to say why we're going back to an angelic galactic civilization, a celeste. It's angelic galactic, but if you take that separation away, it's just celestial, which is all inclusive of space and time. And so that's where we're moving into, where there's equanimity in the unique aspects of the wholeness of ourselves, rather than a part of ourselves being whole and part of ourselves being separated from that wholeness. Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to stop you.
Sorry? I didn't mean to stop you.
I didn't mean to stop you.
I often come across those who are angelic channels, and often there's a narrative that's often quite unique amongst that community, and the narrative that comes through is that there is a 20 to 30 year window whereby most of these changes need to be done by. And I usually find that mostly from those who channel the angelics. And I never understood that. And I often hear that there's this 20 to 30 year window where all the changes have to be done by. Have you heard that?
Yes, and I'm going to explain it like this. And again, anybody can go within and validate anything I say. I encourage it. There's a stair step on the Awakening to Remember journey. Stair step to heaven, if you will. The 33 vertebrae of your spine that you have to grow your kundalini to, and you bounce back and forth until it's fully open. Your third eye, the merging of all of these narratives. As you go through those stair steps, you go through connecting to the archangels, the ascended master, the angels, and then the ascended masters, and then you got the whole illuminated angelic celestial force of heaven. Then you start intermixing with different planetary influences, Pleiadians, Arcturians, Syrians, blah 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 blah. But eventually you will get to pass through the barriers of the Elohim and the planetary guardians and the solar guardians, and in all of those stair steps of information. And so the archangels, the angels, and the ascended masters are more of the lower realms of your fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth dimensional frequencies. To many people, the seventh dimensional frequency is the kingdom of God here in these realms. So each one of those, I'm not saying they're not fully connected. That's not what I'm saying. Each one of those stair steps is limited in information. That's why they're a stair step. They're a vibrational frequency, a dimension of information. And when you're first coming into your journey and start those first third of your journey's stair steps, and you traverse through the lower, mid, and higher frequencies of the fourth dimension, connecting into the fifth dimension and that existential displane of the fifth through the eighth dimensional existential information of that disc plane. They're still within the bounds of time and space continuum. And because it's at lower vibrational stair steps of the journey, the human is still going to interpret it in time filters, if you will. And why are the angels and the archangels and the ascended masters, why am I referring? They're of higher consciousness, yes, but they're on the lower stair steps versus the highest aspects, which is just direct connection to source without the angelics, the galactic, the ascended masters, and all of that influence of time and space continuum and space-time continuum, that polarity. The reason I explain it like that is the human mind that is slowly starting to remember itself and it's slowly expanding is going to resonate with angels more than they are with the insectoids, more than they are with the Andromedans that look like, or the Antarians who look like praying mantis beings. So you start, the journey is really walking through that information that will lead you into the higher celestials and the galactic aspects of yourself. So it's really stair steps of allowing your psyche to build trust. And so interpretation of information is going to be geared towards one, fear filters within, how open a person is to receiving that connection. And because there is so much ingrained about angels, if you will, in religions and children, in description of angels having wings and all of that, it is easier for this to start out connecting to the angelic side of things rather than sending somebody straight into to the galactic side, if you will. And so that interpretation of 20 to 30 years is accurate for those vibrational information that those people are seeking, because to the psyche, the imagery of golden butterfly and golden butterfly and angels and fairies and stuff like that is comforting. Do you know what I mean? It's not invasive, it's not scary, it's not uncomfortable, it's not unknown, because the psyche has been conditioned. Even though once they start getting older, you can't believe in Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny or fairies or angels anymore, it is still ingrained within your religions, in your cultures, in your deities, in your different. So it's more comfortable, and it's going to limit that information, even though at the higher aspect of ourself, time is irrelevant. It's all happening right now. So all of this that is prophesied to happen at this time from the ancient days already occurred. You cannot prophesy something that has never been created or experienced. You can only prophetize the cycle of evolution that repeats itself. So where they said this, there's going to be a time of the rainbow warriors and blah, 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 blah. That's because in every evolution, every cycle that we shift from, it's the same thing. It's a cycle of evolution. So this epoch we are done with. Now we're moving back into a brand new age of Aquarius. So we don't need all of this information. The past will always repeat itself until the past is no longer important. And so this whole narrative has been based on a time and space continuum called an aeon of time. And we no longer need that. So as they're awakening, it's not that it has to be done in 20 or 30 years. It's, Honey, I Shrunk This Kid's story. What this vibration,
you and
will
I
say it's this
kid.
amount of time, the higher in frequency you go, this boundary of time becomes this non-existent. So in one aspect, yes, it has to be done in 20, 30 years. In another, that 20, 30 years is actually 30 million light years. And at the same time, it could be 300 billion years ago. Like, there's information, and I've said this before, for me, what my consciousness shows me that happened 500 billion years ago is not going to occur in these linear realms for 500 million years from today.
Well, that's when Andromeda merges with us.
That's when the Milky Way galaxy merges with Andromeda. But for me, it already occurred 500 billion years ago. If you want to put a time constraint.
I do want to add something. You said something very interesting. History needs to repeat itself until it's not necessary anymore. And the reason why I bring that up is because when I ask the Andromedans recently, why do we have these two wars going on at this moment in time? Because a client asked me recently, he said, well, we're in this big ascension right now, why have we got two wars? And, when I asked my Andromedan said exactly what you said. It said, history needs to keep repeating itself until it's not needed anymore, which is what is happening right now.
No, they learn. And it's no different. The wars that are going on are no different than what people call the galactic wars, the war between angels and demons, what they call the Anunnaki enslaved humans, and blah 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 blah. Christopher Columbus discovered the Americas, and no, Christopher Columbus discovered the Virgin Islands, not Americas. If you tune into that information, but again, it's humans don't know how to not define something or give labels to something, because the mind cannot compute something that does not have a parameter to it. Again, this is a system. Your computer, you can't just upload energy, frequency, and vibration to your computer and expect it to translate it and know what the hell you just uploaded to it. It has to have DOS. It has to have a binary value put to it. This is a game you're in, so everything has to have a value. It has to have a letter, a number, a formula in order for the computer to read it. You know what I'm saying? Information has value, and humans don't. The brain cannot work with information that has no definitive parameters of value put to it, because everything is built on mathematic interpretation. Mathematics, binary, and imagery is all binary. You have sacred geometry. You have images of shapes and angles, and that system will keep repeating itself until all value has been defined to the point it cannot expand. And that's what's happened in this game we're playing, in this universal creation. We have expanded it to the point that the value system cannot be expanded anymore, because we only created it to a certain value, if you will. And now we're taking all of our power back from the value or the attachments we have placed on all of those values of information, if you will. And we're going from it being cyclic, and you have to understand how the existential disc plane works. It's like a CD. It holds information, and we're going from an existential plane that holds information from the 4 quadrants, 1 through 4th dimension, to an existential disc plane of the 5th through 8th dimensional quadrants. 4 quadrants of your brain, 4 quadrants of your heart. And then, and be able to tune into the higher golden existential disc ring of the 9th through 12th dimension, merging it. And so all of the attachments to the value that has been inputted into the system has to be revalued, if you will, or reevaluated, so it doesn't keep cycling through that binary mathematical value system. It has to bring in different values, different information, different light particles, in order to take it from cyclic of merging through the 4 quadrants to it being spherical, and so it spirals up instead of being stagnant in a circle. And that's what we're doing. We're creating that etheric bridge, if you will, or that cyclone, tornado, whatever you want to call it, that we're bringing air in that is merging it into a spherical spiral up to the fifth dimensional information. And that's no longer cyclic. That's what we mean by get off the hamster wheel of information, because we don't need any of this anymore. This cannot be expanded anymore within the parameters of the fourth dimensional frequency limitation of good and evil. So good and evil moves to light and dark moves to electromagnetic, and when you merge all those definitions and take it back to 0 point, you have no value anymore attached to duality. And that value in the limitations, again, in the literacy of the lower human interpretation, you call it poverty or wealth, all on how you chose to put variables of parameters of value to dimensional information. Am I making sense? And so when you change the parameters, and only we can do that by how much light we allow through, how much information, it changes it from just cycling through its 4 quadrants, and it creates an airflow like water into a spherical spiral of information, if that makes sense, especially because you spiral up from your root to your sacral, to your solar plexus, to your heart, to your throat, blah, 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 blah. You're spiraling that light and reconnecting it all, instead of it just spinning, each one spinning, and you don't know which one you're trapped in. Does that make sense?
Is there anything you'd like to conclude on?
Hang on to your consciousness, because it's about to be taken for a ride. And that means get here. This is where your consciousness is. Surrender is going to be key, because there's going to be a lot of abandonment and the feelings of ugliness, the feelings of all of that which has been given value to through the lower 3 chakras, energy centers, that has had the human population live from lack, from survival, from needing to fit in, from wanting to be loved, from wanting to be accepted. All of disgust for their bodies, disgust for their gender, disgust for their life, disgust, all of those feelings are really going to be released, come to the surface to be acknowledged and to be released. So the 5th dimension can really start being experienced and perceived as the imagery shifts. You're really going to see a lot more of that heart palpitation, a lot more of panic, of that, as because the human is conditioned to respond and react to imagery and to narratives. And as Aquarius comes in and does its job of breaking down structure that no longer is in alignment with a different variation and version of love that doesn't have definitions of hurt and pain and suffering. Learn to surrender and flow. Otherwise, it's going to be a lot for people as we go through rapid change of evolution and taking the value back of those survival games, those survival frequency of humanity's victimization, if you will. And the only way we can change the mentality of humanity's victimization is to face what created that victimization. The tragedy is always the remedy, and now the universe is going to show us what created the tragedy, which is human will. What humans have put more value to: gossip, assumption, jump to conclusions rather than the innate truth of themselves here, of source. The universe is going to make sure that humans see that they are the ones responsible. And if they truly want peace and harmony and change, then it is them who is going to have to be accountable for how they think and what that thinking generates as far as behavior and action. That is not going to be easy, but it is only when we face the tragedy that has been created by ourselves can we change the results and become the remedy for the tragedy that we as a collective society has created, and what our families and educations and everything that we have adopted to and took as that duality of truth when it was not. And so as a whole, we're facing the tragedy that we have created so we can apply the remedy and rebuild. But first we have to finish tearing it down, and we're at that space now. Now we can just come in and tear it. We're tired of this shit. We just burn the fucker down and let's move on. So, and let's rebuild. And that's where we're at. Burn the fucker down and let's rebuild. And that's the fire and air that's coming in. So the tragedy is now going to be displayed full force, and at the same time, the remedy is going to be presented at the same time and simultaneously. So this is a very miraculous, very beautiful few months we're going to go into. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be presented with a whole lot of narratives and a whole lot of fear and a whole lot of gosh, what's the word I want to use? A whole lot of characterization of cartoons that are going to seem very real. Narratives playing out, call them your government, call them politicians, call them bankers, call them whatever you want to call them. But they're representative of a collective belief structure. And, let's face it, humans, when they're emotional, they're ugly. They're hateful, they're vicious, they're retaliatory, and and they like to play God. And they like to create a whole lot of drama and a whole lot of stories and add a whole lot of noise to things, because the subconscious wounding of us as a whole is very immature and wants attention. And so that's what's going to play out here. And it's going to be a little too personal for humans. You know what I mean? And again, understand the outside world is the messenger. Don't get caught up in the tragedy, but see it for what it is and apply the remedy. And we'll get through this a lot smoother. It doesn't have to affect you unless you're still in a space of wanting and seeking attention and drama. You're either going to contribute noise to the drama that's going to unfold, or you're going to contribute truly higher awareness and light to help transform energy and shift it. You know, dance, because all dimensional information is now in the quantum soup. That means we're going to experience the collective of what it thinks, what it feels, and what it does to show us the structure that has to be torn down so we can rebuild it. And it's just disguised as, again, we've allowed a virus to affect our consciousness. We have infiltrated our own consciousness with a virus of our own limitation of beliefs. And again, this world out here shows it, all these viruses and wars and blah, blah, blah. So as the origin of the tragedy, which is the individual human that has contributed, again, the universe is coming in and is going to show each and every one their contribution to the world of good and evil. Don't make it personal, or you're going to get caught up in the tragedy and you're going to recreate the tragedy. Remember, you're the solution. You are the remedy, but you are not the solution and are not the remedy if you're too busy and too caught up in the drama of the tragedy and keep projecting and creating the tragedy, because you're not recognizing your wounding that is dramatizing the tragedy even more. That's the best advice I can give. But humans like drama.
Well, we've experienced that. Linda?
Let's dance, darling.
Oh God, some people forget that sometimes after I'm gonna keep recording while I say this, but people forget that sometimes what we'll do is we'll hit stop record, and then we'll go off and like have it on a tangent for another 2 hours and talk about something. Let's leave it there for today. It's always magic talking. You and I are probably going to carry on a little bit after this, and it'll be from me and probably from both of us, but from me, goodbye.